Have you ever wondered where the halo rings are located in the galaxy? Buried within the halo lore are real stars, real distances, and I have used real star data to painstakingly create a 3D map of the halo universe. Because I have no life. I've waded through and sorted out the inconsistencies, conflicting information, and fan theories parading as canon, which has left me totally fine. But I can't guarantee your sanity if you watch this video, so hold on to your photo of Cortana and prepare to teabag the cosmos as I descend into rampancy, exploring the most extensive 3D map of Halo ever. First, I gotta summarize the entire backstory of Halo. Not a complete lore recap, just enough to understand the locations in context. In the beginning, there were the Precursors, a race of transsentient beings before the Forerunners. The Forerunners? The Three Runners? Not much is known for certain, but approximately 15 million years ago, they created some of the life in our galaxy, including the Forerunners and humans. In the Halo universe, there actually was an ancient spacefaring human civilization millions of years ago, a Tier 1 civilization on the Forerunner tech tree. But like bad parents, the Precursors chose humans as their favorite child and decided that they would inherit the mantle of responsibility, which is basically like responsibility for life in the galaxy. The Forerunners didn't take this very well, and about 10 million years ago waged a war of genocide against the Precursors. This brings us to the first real location from Halo lore. They chased them all the way out of the Milky Way to the large Magellanic Cloud, known in Halo as Path Kethona, a real dwarf galaxy 163,000 light-years away, located here. And they wiped almost all of them out. This unsavory history was also wiped out of general knowledge amongst the Forerunners, and accounts are disputed in lore. Way later, they would also fight and win another war against humans and reset human culture and technology back to a primitive state from which we would evolve from again. But not all precursors were eradicated. Some spread out their essence as molecular space dust, which was intended to eventually reconstitute itself, but instead over the eons was corrupted, mutated, and is what became the Flood. The Forerunners chose the nuclear option to combat this new incarnation of the Precursors, and they built the Greater Ark, which created the Halo Rings, which are of course a mega weapon designed to delete all complex life in the galaxy. At first, 12 Halos were built by the Greater Ark, each 30,000 kilometers in diameter, but in one of the biggest project management mistakes in galactic history, they were too big and it was impractical to transport them through Slipspace. So they downsized and made the Lesser Ark, also known as Installation 00, which made 6 smaller halos 10,000 kilometers in diameter, and one was repurposed from the original set. Well, technically it made a total of 8. Installation 08 was built to replace the one we blow up in Halo CE, but then we blow that one up in Halo 3 and damage the Ark, but then it builds another one, Installation 09 in Halo Wars 2, which then gets pulled over by Guardian Police in mid-slipstream, and we don't know where it is. The location of the Greater Ark is not mentioned in canon, but the Lesser Ark is.
That's our galaxy. We're beyond the rim.
2 to the 18th light years from galactic center, to be precise.
Which is 262,144 light years above the galactic plane, and kind of looks like it's offset like a little bit over here. Above and below could be a matter of perspective, but if we use the real galactic coordinate system, this side is indeed above. The real-life galactic coordinate system uses Sol as the center of all things, of course, which is 26,000 light-years from the galactic core. The line through the galactic core is 0 degrees, effectively galactic north, and it goes around counterclockwise in 360 degrees of right ascension. And since this is 3D, uppy-downy is in positive and negative degrees of declination. These are both also sometimes referred to as galactic longitude and latitude. I've seen so many maps in so many random orientations. For the love of all that is holy, if you're going to make a galaxy map, please use this orientation. In my previous video, my depiction of the galaxy's scale was a little bit off. The galaxy is often quoted as being about 100,000 light-years in diameter, and most artists' interpretations show the arms extending this far, but 100,000 light-years actually extends well beyond those arms out to here. Space is big. The very first Halo ring from the first game, Halo CE, is Installation 04, also known as Alpha Halo. The Halo rings have 2 names, the installation number, which was given by the Forerunners, and a Greek letter designation given by the UNSC. And while we're talking about names, Sol is the name of our star and therefore the name of our star system. Some people previously asked why it's called Sol. In a nutshell, it's because of Latin. The Latin word for sun is Sol. Sol and Installation 04 are both located in the Orion Arm, which is also known as the Orion Spur. It's 3,500 light years in width and roughly 20,000 light years in length. Installation 04 is only 60 light years away and indistinguishable from this distance, so we'll come back here in a minute when we get to local space. The second ring visited by humans in Halo 2 is Installation 05, Delta Halo.
That is another Halo.
Say what?
Miranda Keyes and the gang follow the Prophet of Regret's ship through its Slipspace tear, and although it appears like it was an instantaneous trip, and maybe nobody thought about that when they were making Halo 2, later it's established canonically that it took them 13 days to get there, which is where we run into a problem. The only canonical source of the location of the Halo rings is from the Halo Warfleet book, and it puts the rings in this order, with Delta Halo on the other side of the galaxy about 50,000 light years away. Any way you try to retcon it, there's no way the Covenant could have traveled that fast. Because in Halo, faster than light travel ain't always that fast. Let's talk about Slipspace. FTL in Halo is accomplished by entering a higher dimensional space called Slipspace. Slipspace is an 11-dimensional space beyond our regular space. This is probably a reference to M-theory, a real-life string theory framework that hypothesizes 11 extra dimensions. And in canon, the speed of travel through it can vary widely depending on multiple factors like how good your drive is, the topology of Slipspace itself, or how inconsistent the authors were. At the beginning of the series, humans have the slowest drive, the Shaw-Fujikawa Translight engine, a somewhat primitive slipspace engine sometimes referred to as punching a hole in slipspace, and can only travel at about 2 to 3 light years per day. This is why human territory is contained within that 100 light year diameter, because travel time makes longer distance colonization impractical. The Covenant, however, use repurposed, backwards engineered Forerunner slipspace drives which are more sophisticated and capable of at least 900 light years in a day. Forerunner dreadnoughts are the fastest known, having been calculated at over 2,000 light years per day. And there is a cost to traveling at faster than light speeds. To quote the Halo Wiki, while faster than light travel is bound to generate chronological and causal paradoxes by nature, ships traveling through slipspace rely on a self-healing effect of space-time called reconciliation, more formally known as causal reconciliation or particle reconciliation, to eliminate any paradoxes that may otherwise occur. This means that if you send something big enough through slipspace, sometimes it might slow down all faster than light travel in the galaxy, maybe the universe. This was the problem with the greater arc and why they had to make smaller halos. Literally a traffic jam in slipspace. But I digress. The Warfleet book is technically considered canon, but it conflicts with the Halo Encyclopedia in some place, and in practice isn't very canon-y because it was rushed and there's behind-the-scenes problems. So, if Delta Halo was 50,000 light years away, it would mean they would have had to have traveled at 4,000 light years per day. Maybe slipspace traffic was good on that day, but if we ignore the Warfleet book and put them in order of installation number, which the Forerunners do dumb shit, but I feel like they would have done that, it puts Installation 05 next to Installation 04, which would make it about 10,000 light years away. So if they traveled at the quoted Covenant speed of 900 light years per day for 13 days, would mean they could travel approximately 11,700 light years in that time. Considering slipspace topology gore, that seems like a healthy margin and seems pretty likely to me. But you know what's even more likely is that the authors didn't care about how far the fuck. And I'm not hating. Honestly, I'm not hating. The consistency is pretty good, considering the depth of the lore, the number of authors, and we'll see in a minute how many real star systems there are in local space, and it's pretty cool. So I'm not hating. But back on Earth, it turns out there was a giant Forerunner portal underneath the desert that apparently every 20th century archaeologist missed.
But it doesn't know about the portal.
Oh, was that an option? Did I not mention that there are also Forerunner slipspace portals? Those darn Forerunners, they're always inventing technology to serve the plot. Once opened, it lets Master Chief and the whole gang travel the 260,000 light years to the Lesser Ark in only 21 days, canonically. Although later the Monitor Tragic Solitude soups up the portal to near instantaneous speeds, continuing the Forerunner tradition of serving the plot. Installation 01, 02, and 06 are never visited in any of the lore, but Installation 03, Gamma Halo, was first discovered by the freighter Floral Express, fleeing from the Battle of Tribute, which took place in the Epsilon Eridani system in a random slipspace jump. This one I've got no plausible retcon for. I mean, slipspace topology, hey. Although I will say that if you put them in the installation order, then the installation 03 is the next closest halo to Earth, 10,000 light years. Just saying. We also visited it in Halo 4 when the Didact made a pit stop to pick up the composer. Later in the comic Halo Escalation, Gamma Halo is moved through Slipspace by its monitor to an unknown location. Installation 07 Zeta Halo is the one which was repurposed from the original 30,000 kilometer diameter halos. Installation 07 is the setting for Halo Infinite, but it has a long and storied history before that. For a time it was the prison for the Primordial. The Primordial was the last known precursor, and unsurprisingly, it broke out. It sweet-talked the monitor of the installation mendicant Bias into giving him control of the ring, and he took it for a joyride around the galaxy, popping up here and there and causing havoc and precursor antics, until he was eventually recaptured by the ISO Didact and destroyed. But turns out his consciousness survived in the Flood's compound mind and was eventually reconstituted in the Grave Mind, which is why the Grave Mind knows all this shit about the precursors.
I am a monument to all your sins.
So I leave it up to you to decide which version you like better, the Warfleet positioning or the installation number positioning. Let me know in the comments, which I'm sure you already have. As for the range of the Halo's effect, 343 Guilty Spark says,
Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years.
It appears he was using the term radius colloquially, implying that the diameter is 25,000 light years, and add that to the list of problems with him. But when all 7 halos are fired simultaneously, the harmonic waves are amplified exponentially, and the full effective range is 3 galactic radii.
They and all additional sentient life in 3 radii of the galactic center died as planned.
This time, he is referring to the actual radius, which is about 50,000 light years. Thus, the full range is about 150,000 light years, just shy of Path Kethona, which kind of seems like an oversight if you ask me. But you know what's a bigger oversight? The Forerunners preserved some of the Flood on each and every halo, behind laughably insecure doors, and they repeatedly got out. I'm beginning to think that the Forerunners didn't deserve the mantle of responsibility. Okay, let's start closing in on local space. The shield world of Requiem, the setting for Halo 4, is in the fictional Epilogue system, 7,230 light years from Earth. A real star isn't mentioned in lore, so it could be anywhere in this 7,200 light year radius diameter circle. And the exact size of Covenant territory is not mentioned in canon, only being said to be in the Orion Spur and spanning a few thousand light years. Some fan theories suggest that it might be in the outer part of the Orion Spur, but you know, who knows. And while the Forerunners' civilization spanned the entire galaxy, their homeworld of Gibalb was located in the Orion Complex, which is a real-life, dense molecular cloud star-forming region about 1,400 light-years from Sol. The shield world of Bastion is also located here, uncovered by Ryan Forge and 343 Guilty Spark. And finally, we get to the meat and potatoes, local human colonial space. As I mentioned, human territory extends to about 100 light years in diameter, and if you haven't watched my previous videos, A, you should, and B, we have only mapped in detail a tiny portion of the stars in the real galaxy. The farther you get from Sol, the harder it is to map stars. The Gaia Space Observatory has mapped over 2.5 billion objects, but that only represents about 1% of the hundreds of billions of stars in the galaxy. In this 100 light-year bubble, we have mapped over 4,000 stars, and that's what you're looking at here, but that's not even close to all of them. The total estimate of stars within this sphere is 10 to 60,000. And this isn't even a very dense part of the galaxy. This is just like an average slice. It's crazy. I'm going to lower the number back down to the known stars from the HYG database, just so it's not cluttered. Back in Halo as of 2490, before the Covenant War, the colonial territory of the Unified Earth Government, the UEG, encompassed over 800 colonies, including planets, moons, asteroids, mining facilities, and relay stations. Of those 800, 170 are listed in the Halo Encyclopedia, and of those, there are only 30 with real star systems mentioned, which is actually a lot. There are a few colonies that are named after star constellations and not a specific star system, but there are likely candidates that the community has suggested, and I'll mention these of dubious canonicity. For some reason, Alpha Centauri, the closest star to Sol, was never colonized, likely because there were no habitable planets. And at this point, I should also note that the star locations here are accurate and relative to one another, but they are massively scaled up in order to see them. They're like half a light year in diameter, and even though stars are big, they're not even close to that big. One of the largest stars known, Betelgeuse, is 765 million miles in diameter, way bigger than any star we'll visit on this list, and that is only 0.00013 light years in diameter. The closest colony to Sol in Halo is Luton. 8.77 light years away, it's located at the red dwarf Luton 726-8. It is a 6-day travel from Earth via Slipspace, and Luton is a relatively smaller colony than the other core worlds, but is densely populated nonetheless. And while Luton is the closest, the very first star system humans colonized was the Epsilon Eridani system in 2362. It is of course famous for being the location of Reach. Reach was the most developed extrasolar colony, a sister planet to Earth and a nexus of military power of the United Nations Space Command, the UNSC. It was where the Spartan program was initiated and where Spartan 117, the Master Chief, John Halo, was trained. They never say his last name. It was home to over 700 million people until the fall of Reach in 2552 when it was glassed by the Covenant. But not before the Pillar of Autumn was launched, but we'll come back to that. The other planets in Epsilon Eridani are, as we mentioned, Reach, which has 2 moons, Turul and Kasota-Savarvas. Tribute, a highly populated, thriving commercial hub of the colonies. Beta Gabriel, a watery planet home to the underwater ONI facility UNSC Fathom. Circumstance, famous for its universities and courts of justice, which is a weird thing to be famous for. And Tantalus, which we know tantalizingly little about. Sorry. I couldn't stop myself. The Tantalus 10,000 Motorsports race is held here. If you've been following my channel, you know Tau Ceti is another famous star in sci-fi lore with tons of references. It is 11.9 light years away, and during the Covenant War, while there were no colonies here, it was the location of the unyielding Hierophant, a Covenant command and control center and refit battle station that was destroyed by Blue Team. It is probably best described by Sergeant Johnson, which I will now do my impression of. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not sure what that thing is. Don't look like any uneven elephant to me, more like 2 squids kissing. Tau Ceti was also the setting for Marathon, the game Bungie made before Halo. At LaSalle 9352, there isn't a colony, but the Shinobi-class Mjolnir armor was discovered aboard a derelict freighter of unknown origin near this red dwarf. Groombridge 34 is a binary pair of red dwarves only 11.6 light years away. It was the resting place of construction platform 966A where Kurt 051 supposedly went missing in Halo Ghosts of Onyx. Arcadia is located in the Procyon star system, 11.64 light years away. Arcadia is the 4th planet around Procyon A, which isn't necessarily canon, but I'm assuming that because Procyon B is a white dwarf, very unlikely to have a habitable planet. Arcadia is a tropical planet and an outer colony of the UEG, and even though it's 11 light years away, it was one of the locations in the game Halo Wars and was eventually glassed by the Covenant. In Halo, there's a big political conflict between the inner and outer colonies, and while I've read that there is supposedly a distinction of like 10 light years for inner and outer colonies, in reality there seems to be no actual rhyme or reason as to what is inner or outer, and travel times are inconsistent too with, the actual distances. Bungie has said, of course, that this is due to the Slipspace topology, but let's be honest, it's probably because the authors didn't have a 3D map like this, and unlike me, had lives. Juneau is a human colony world located at the red dwarf Ross 128. Colonies around red dwarfs are kind of dubious because it's unlikely to find a habitable planet around a red dwarf, but hey, I've accepted way more far-fetched stuff than that in this thing. Epsilon Indi is 11.83 light years from Earth and home to one of the most important colonies in Halo, Harvest. A breadbasket world, it was a major source of food for the colonies, and it had the dubious honor of being the location of first contact with the Covenant on February 3rd, 2525, which didn't go so well, and was glassed after the UNSC lost the battle with the Covenant. Canonically, it's supposed to be at the outer reaches of colonial space, being 2 months from Reach, but it's been retconned to being just far for Slipspace travel, because clearly someone made a mistake.
Someone made a big goddamn mistake!
82 Eridani is not canon, but could likely be a candidate for Eridanus, a rural planet and the home planet of John Halo and Emil A239. Beta Hydrae is a yellow star 24.33 light-years away and the location of Beta Hydrae 4, which is where, in 2533, Dr. Catherine Halsey, as a part of her attempt to create a theoretical AI triumvirate, relocated candidates to the planet's Sanderson Private Hospital. Zeta Tucanae is 28 light-years away and is the location of Far Gone, a colony world listed as untouched by the Covenant. Gamma Pavonis is a yellow-white star 30.21 light-years away. The Battle of Gamma Pavonis 7 occurred around the titular planet, and it is here where a young Miranda Keyes, commanding the UNSC Hilbert, engaged a Covenant vessel, successfully ramming it, but only 2 crew survived, Miranda being one of them. It is also the location of the Pav from the Bobaverse. Just had to throw that one in there. Xi Boötis A is a human-colonized star system located 21.8 light-years from Sol. It was invaded on February 13th, 2528 by the Covenant, but defended successfully by Admiral Cole's fleet. Its current status is unknown. The outer colony Coral is the 5th planet orbiting at Wolf 1473, a red dwarf 42 light-years away, and the location of a Forerunner installation. Lambda Serpentis, also known simply as Jericho, is the location of the planet Jericho 7. It is one of the many sites of insurrection put down by the Spartans and home to a large number of orphans enlisted for the Spartan 3 program. Among them, Owen B096. The Covenant glassed it in 2535. Psi Serpentis is a triple star system consisting of a yellow G-type main star and likely 2 binary red dwarfs 47.8 light-years away. It was the location of the Battle of Psi Serpentis, which took place over the gas giant Viperidae. The Covenant fleet was annihilated when the UNSC Everest fired all of its nukes into the planet's core, temporarily initiating fusion in a process called stellification, which is my current favorite sciencey word. 18 Scorpii, 46.11 light-years from Sol, is one of 3 known systems in FleetCom Sector 3 and is the location of the colony planet Falcumma, which is somehow an inner colony. See, I don't know. It was the location of several insurrection skirmishes, and it also ended up being the destination of the refugee asteroid from the Exodus project from Madrigal, which will make sense when we get to Madrigal. Groombridge 1830 is 29.93 light-years away and is the location of the colony known simply as Groombridge, where on December 24th, 2530, the Battle of the Great Bear was fought. The UNSC was successful in defeating the Covenant, and a Sangheili survivor from a CAS-class assault carrier that had survived re-entry after crash landing on the world was captured and interrogated by Admiral Preston J. Cole. Leonis Minoris is a colony in Halo and a real constellation, but no specific star system is named. A likely non-canon candidate is 11 Leonis Minoris, 36.64 light-years away. The Leonis Minoris system is home to 3 colony worlds, 2 of which were razed by the Covenant and 1 survived. The Theta Ursae Majoris system is 44 light-years away and experienced a significant conflict between the UNSC and the insurrectionists, particularly during the skirmish at Theta Ursae Majoris in 2501 and the Battle of Theta Ursae Majoris in 2504. The latter battle featured Battle Group Tango, which consisted of 4 UNSC destroyers that confronted the insurrectionist frigate Bellicose. 26 Draconis is located in the constellation Draco and is the location of the colony world Levosia, and somebody had to be thinking about Harry Potter when they named it, because it's not Levosia.
It's Leviosa.
It's a triple star system with a binary pair of yellow and orange stars orbited by a red dwarf, and a blockade by the UNSC to stop black market FTL goods sparked the Callisto incident, which effectively began the insurrection in 2494. In Halo, the star system Cygnus, according to the 2022 Halo Encyclopedia, is located at the star Gliese 777, which they probably picked because Bungie's 7, they like 7. Home to 2 worlds, one just called Cygnus, Kyler Silva's birthplace, and the other is New Jerusalem, home to the Oni operative Jilan Al-Signi. 51 Pegasi, also known as Helvetios, is a sun-like star located 50.6 light-years from Earth in the constellation of Pegasus. In Halo, it is home to the planet 51 Pegasi b and its moon Pegasi Delta. In 2545, the moon's rich oceans were mined by the Covenant for deuterium and tritium. The Covenant refinery complex was the target of the UNSC strike operation Torpedo. This led to the demise of all but 2 Beta Company Spartan 3s. The Alpha Aurigae star system, also known as Capella, and sometimes called the Goat Star, is actually a quadruple star system organized into two binary pairs, 43 light-years from Sol. It is the location of two colonies, Capella and Origami. It was the location of the skirmish at Capella and a battle at the Origami asteroid field during the Covenant War. Lambda Aurigae 40.7 light-years away is the home to the planet Roost, where then Captain Preston Jeremiah Cole once took the heavy destroyer UNSC Gorgon on shore leave. The 111 Tauri system is a binary system 48 light-years from Sol and where the sparsely populated colony world Victoria is located, which was briefly taken over by insurrectionists of the United Rebel Front and several actions by Blue Team which occur in Halo Ghost of Onyx. Dio, I don't know, is the only Covenant star system with a canonical real star. Listed in the Halo 3 Bestiarium as HD 69830, it is 41 light-years away. It is the home star system of the Kig Yar, the annoying shield enemies. They are from the moon Iain, orbiting the planet Jo'ot. Though some have questioned the plausibility of this because it's so far inside of human territory, as far as inconsistencies go, it's a pretty minor one. The star system Alpha Corvi, also known as Alchiba, 49 light-years away, is home to the colony planet Alpha Corvi 2. In Ocean World, it was the site of an insurrection activity at the Battle of Alpha Corvi, which the UNSC lost and then abandoned the system. Zeta Doradus is another major location in Halo lore. So let me try to explain this Russian doll of a planet. This is the location of Onyx, which was originally thought to be a natural planet, but is actually an artificial planet made out of sentinels, which were built by the Forerunners to protect a shield world inside of the planet's core, and the shield world is actually a 300 million kilometer diameter Dyson sphere, but it's compressed within a slipspace bubble in the center of the planet. It's bigger on the inside. If you don't know what a Dyson sphere is, I will let Captain Picard tell you better than I can.
In the 20th century, a physicist called Freeman Dyson postulated the theory that an enormous hollow sphere could be constructed around a star. This would have the advantage of harnessing all the radiant energy of that star, and any population living on the interior surface would have virtually inexhaustible sources of power.
Uncompressed, it is 2 AU in diameter. An AU is an astronomical unit, the distance between the Earth and the Sun, which is 150 million kilometers. So what is this thing even called? After the planet Onyx shed its crust, it became known simply as Sarcophagus, and Shield World 006, and Oni Research Facility Trevelyan, and Onyx. After Dr. Halsey and team gained access to Sarcophagus, the planet formerly known as Onyx, it was uncompressed into normal space and encompassed 2 planets that then started orbiting the star inside of the Dyson sphere. God knows what happened to the actual star that Onyx, the planet, was orbiting. Also, if you disrupt orbits like that, bad things happen. I'm moving on. Finally, we come to the location of Alpha Halo. Installation 04 is canonically located in the Sowell system, which is a fictional system named after a Bungie employee. However, it has become pseudo-canon that Sowell is located at the real-life Iota Horology star system 56 light-years away. The Sowell system has 9 planets, and the Halo installation orbits the gas giant threshold between its moon bases at the L1 Lagrange point. The moon basis appears in a lot of Halo media, including the Halo 2 multiplayer map Burial Mounds. The Pillar of Autumn left from Reach in the Epsilon Eridani system and took just under 3 weeks to get here, where Halo CE begins. In 2019, an astrophysicist Halo fan did a tremendous amount of research to find a matching star and ended up finding the same star, Iota Horology, which fans had already suggested because it matches the description so perfectly. The creative director of 343 Industries at the time said it might be there. But he's no longer with the company, and during the making of this video, 343 Industries was killed. So we'll see what Halo Studios does with it. If you're watching Halo Studios, do it. 23 Librae is a yellow star 85 light-years away, and it is the location of Madrigal, another major colony world in Halo lore. Canonically, it's supposed to be the closest world to Harvest, but we've been over this. Refugees during the Covenant War fled to a collection of hollowed-out connected asteroids dubbed the Rubble, which trailed the gas giant Hesiod at its L5 Lagrange point. At one point, insurrectionists and Kig-Yar rebels both inhabited the Rubble in an uneasy peace. Eventually, in what was called the Exodus Project, one asteroid was retrofitted with Slipspace engines and dubbed Habitat Exodus and used to ferry refugees from 23 Librae 218 Scorpii to the colony Valacumba. Chi Ceti is a binary star system home to the outer colony world Chi Ceti 4, which housed the Materials Group top secret Damascus testing facility where the Mjolnir-powered assault armor was first created. In 2525, the Battle of Chi Ceti was fought here, and it was the first victory for the UNSC in the Human Covenant War. Algol is known as the Demon Star. It is 90 light-years away, the furthest known real star in Halo lore. It's home to the small Algolis colony world where the Grunting Yggdrasil mech was developed. This is the research project from which the Mantis mech came from. It is also where the Banished were first formed after the invasion of Algolis by the Covenant. Sigma Octantis was an important location, one of the first battles with the Covenant, and where Captain Keyes first did the Keyes Loop, which is like his version of the Picard maneuver. Why does every captain have to have a maneuver? There is, unfortunately, no Sigma Octantis in real life. There is a Sigma Octantis, but it is 294 light-years away, far further than any human colony could be. And that is all of the stars known. I would have loved to make a 12-hour lore video, but it would have taken me all year, and to be honest with you, I'm a little depressed with Halo. For me, there hasn't been a good story since Master Chief went into hibernation at the end of Halo 3 and got sold to Microsoft. We'll see what happens with Halo Studios, but they're still owned by Microsoft, so I'm not holding my breath. If you like this video, like it and subscribe for more videos like this, and as usual, feel free to roast me in the comments for my pronunciations of this technobabble. Thanks to Reddit user Susto, and shout out to the Halopedia wiki for a ton of info and their run-on sentences. And if you want access to outtakes and to hear my offensive Sergeant Johnson impression, consider joining my Patreon. Thanks for watching.